U.S.-Chinese relations took a turn for the worst on Monday. At a press conference held in China, Joint Chiefs of Staff Admiral Michael Mullen and General Qin Bingde got together to publicly discuss their public hostilities. The whole intention of this was to repair some of the military relations between the country. However, the meeting had the opposite to the desired effect. The U.S. and China had intended to improve their military relations. These were discontinued in January 2010 when the U.S. sold $6.4 billion worth of military hardware to Taiwan. The hope was, after this meeting, they could resume a military relationship. And, as I said, all did not go well. General Chen, from the opening bell, questioned America's involvement in the South China Sea. Of course, this was really a rhetorical question. The South China Sea has great strategic importance. It is the main shipping route for just about everything made in Southeast Asia. Not only that, it's the main route by which China receives its energy supplies from the Middle East and also from Africa. The whole intention was to call out the U.S. so they could publicly state why they were being so involved in the area. On various occasions, the U.S. has expressed that it does not intend to intervene in South China Sea disputes. However, we have observed the latest joint exercises between the U.S. and other countries. For example, Philippines and Vietnam. The timing of those joint exercises is inappropriate as we see it. With U.S. intentions in the region blatantly obvious and completely undeniable, Michael Mullen had no problem coming up with some politically acceptable answer that was no doubt rehearsed ahead of time. The intention was to promote the idea of peace and understanding while at the same time remind China that they would not be backing down from any possible confrontation. There remain between us many issues of misunderstanding and, quite frankly, apprehension. We cannot let that history render our future more perilous than it is already. The United States has had a presence in the Asia-Pacific region for decades. We've exercised with our allies and friends in this part of the world for decades, and we will continue to do that. Michael Mullen did eventually answer the question. They called the U.S. intervention in the area freedom of navigation, meaning they wished that to keep the place open so that anyone involved in trade or sea passage could go through easily. However, China was simply not buying this excuse for the militarization of the area, and quite frankly, neither was anyone else. Is there any case in which China acted in a way that really impacted on the freedom of navigation of the United States? Actually, in the South China Sea, freedom of navigation has never been an issue or a problem. General Chen took the opportunity to point out the lopsidedness in military spending. He pointed out that the United States spends $700 billion a year on military endeavors, while China only spends $123 billion a year. They pointed out that their budget was not sufficient to undertake such actions that the U.S. were subtly accusing them of. Not only that, China also made a little dig. They suggested that the U.S. spend some of that money on improving the lives of ordinary Americans. In actuality, this press conference resolved absolutely nothing. The whole meeting was intended for both sides to publicly display their frustration over the situation and to conduct some saber rattling, to let each side know that if there was going to be any kind of violence or outbreak of war, that both sides were willing to go and fight it right to the end. There's no doubt in my mind that this entire press conference was done so that both sides could say they went to the table and tried to negotiate in peace. So, therefore, they can now go back to each of their respective peoples and say, well, we tried to resolve things peacefully, but the other side wasn't listening. So, therefore, they had to promote the idea of war. Well, we tried to do things peacefully, but it didn't work because the other side wasn't listening. The whole intention of doing this was to make it more palatable further expand military spending on both sides, which is difficult to do in this economic climate for all the various reasons. The whole intention of this was to get the populations further behind the act of war, trying to claim that the other side was unwilling to listen. Both sides used this as an opportunity to do so. This whole situation is two superpowers vying for global supremacy. This is two groups of ruling elites fighting over control of the planet, resources, and whatnot, all for the purpose of profit. Two groups of ruling elites are pressing towards war, a war that the working class, who are not going to benefit from it, are going to die fighting. Situations like these are avoided by simply taking this wealth and these resources and distributing it according to everybody, according to their need.